DaVinci Resolve feels slow, choppy, or impossible to edit in, your first thought is probably, my computer is not good enough. And sometimes that is true, but before you upgrade your GPU, buy more RAM, or start blaming your camera, there are a few simple things you should try first. Because very often Resolve is not slow only because of your computer. It is slow because you're asking it to do too much at once. So in this video I'll show you a workflow that can make DaVinci Resolve much smoother. Starting with the easiest fixes and then moving into proxies, render cache, storage and the moments where hardware actually becomes the problem. And the first fix takes just a few seconds, so before you generate proxies or render cache, try this first. In DaVinci Resolve you can bypass color grades and fusion effects. This is one of the fastest ways to check what is actually slowing your timeline down. If your timeline suddenly plays smooth after bypassing color or fusion, then your original footage might not be the main problem. The problem might be your grade, or a fusion title, or noise reduction, or an effect. Maybe something Resolve has to calculate on top of the footage. And this is important because proxies are great, but they are not the first answer to every kind of lag. So this is the first quick test. Bypass color and fusion. Play the timeline and see what changes. If playback improves, you already learned something, and if playback is still slow, let's move to the next quick fix. The second simple thing I would try is lowering the playback resolution. If you are editing a 4K project, you do not always need Resolve to play everything at full resolution while you are still cutting. You can use timeline proxy resolution and set it to half or quarter. This does not change final export and it doesn't make your video lower quality. And for many people, this alone can be a big difference. Because during the rough cut, you usually don't need perfect video quality every second. You need smooth playback, you need to choose the right shot, you need to feel the timing, you need to decide if a clip should be 3 or 2 seconds long. That does not require full 4K playback all the time. So my mindset is simple. During editing, smooth is more important than perfect. During color grading, quality becomes more important again. So if Resolve is lagging, try this before doing anything more complicated. Set timeline proxy resolution to half or quarter and see if playback improves. If that is enough, perfect, you might even not need proxies for this project, but if it's still not enough, then you might really need proxies. So now let's talk about proxies, and proxies basically are lighter versions of your original footage. So instead of forcing your computer to play those huge files with a lot of data, it uses smaller files and makes editing much smoother. And later, during the export, the computer uses the original files, so you are not losing quality this way. So you still keep your originals, you still keep the full quality, but you are editing and working in real time on smaller files that are much easier for your computer. And this can completely change how editing feels. For example, I often work with B-RAW files from the BMPCC 4K, and those files are great for quality and color grading. But in bigger projects with many clips, effects, grades or long timelines, I still want the editing process to feel smooth. The reason this works is that not every video file is equally easy for your computer to play. Some files are designed to preserve image quality, and some files are designed to be easy to edit. Those are not always the same things. H.265 is a good example. It can look very good and keep file sizes low, but it can be painful to edit because your computer has to decode a lot of compressed information in real time. B-RAW is different, and in many cases it is much nicer to work with than heavily compressed delivery codecs. So now you know what proxies are, but how to use them. First, import your original footage normally. Keep your camera originals safe, ideally keep your footage on a fast drive. Then select the clips you want to use and generate proxy media. You do not always need to generate proxies for every single file on your drive. If you have 10 hours of footage but only 2 hours are actually useful, it can make sense to do a first selection and generate proxies only for the clips you are actually going to edit with. But if the whole project is heavy and you know you will use a lot of it, generating proxies for everything can also make sense. Just remember that proxies also take extra storage space because those are separate files. After generating proxy media, the most important thing is to make sure Resolve is actually using it. This sounds obvious, but that's a common mistake. People generate proxies and Resolve still uses camera originals. So check your proxy handling settings and make sure Resolve is set to prefer proxies while editing. Then you cut normally, build the sequence, move clips around, choose music, work on timing, test the story, and because the files are lighter, the timeline should feel much smoother. Then, when you are ready for final color grading, checking detail or exporting, you can switch back to the camera originals. If you already have proxies, the timeline resolution is lower and your playback is still bad, the problem might not be the footage anymore. It might be what you added to the footage. Noise reduction can be very heavy. Stabilization, fusion titles, some effects, it all can be very heavy, and complicated grades can also slow things down. This is where render cache can really help. Render cache lets Resolve render a section of the timeline in the background, so it doesn't have to calculate everything in real time every time you press play. So if one clip has heavy noise reduction or fusion title, you can cache that section and let Resolve play the cached section instead. But I would not use render cache as the first solution for everything. First, try the simple things. Bypass color and fusion, lower timeline resolution, use proxies for heavy footage. Then use render cache for the specific clips or sections that are still heavy, because cache files take a lot of space, and if your cache folder is on a slow drive or nearly full drive, you can create a new problem trying to fix the first one. So render cache is useful, but I would use it with intention. And if you use proxies or cache files, make sure those files are stored somewhere that actually makes sense. For bigger projects, I would rather edit from a fast SSD than from a slow hard drive. A fast drive with enough free space can make the whole workflow much cleaner. Sometimes the bottleneck is not the file, it's not the GPU or your computer, it's only the storage. Of course, hardware still matters, and proxies are not magic. If your GPU is too weak, color grading, effects or noise reduction can still be really slow. If you do not have enough RAM, big projects and fusion effects can become unstable. If your CPU struggles with specific codec, some files will always be harder to decode. And if your drive is slow, playback can still stutter. So yeah, sometimes upgrading your computer does work, but that's not where I would start, because if your workflow is messy, even a better computer will still feel slower than it should. A better machine gives you more power, but a better workflow reduces the amount of unnecessary work the machine has to do. And that is the part that you can improve for free. So before you decide that your computer is useless, check the simple settings first. And if your timeline is still slow after applying tips from this video, then maybe yeah, the hardware might be the real limitation, but now at least you know what you are testing. If you want to learn my full editing workflow in DaVinci Resolve, check out this video next. It's a unique system that goes in 9 passes and makes you save time and edit better. Thanks for watching, and remember, let your films be shot by reality.